clerk.
Deputy Speaker, I ask leave of the House to move amendments 1 to 20 as circulated in my name together.
Is leave granted? Member for Clark.
I move amendments 1 to 20 as circulated in my name together. Deputy Speaker, the Prime Minister noted in 2005, when introducing his own climate change trigger bill in Parliament, that our environmental laws currently ignore the glaring gap of climate change. Isn't it a sad indictment, then, that the same thing remains true 20 years later? So, Deputy Speaker, I've taken inspiration from the Prime Minister's proposal in the drafting of these amendments to the bill to introduce a climate trigger to the Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act. Deputy Speaker, my amendments would require projects that would directly or indirectly emit more than 80,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide per year to be assessed for approval under the EPBC Act. This includes Scope 3 emissions, so that exported emissions are factored into decision-making on projects. These amendments also require the newly established EPA to ensure decisions on projects are consistent with Australia's greenhouse gas emissions target as set out in the Climate Change Act, as well as our Paris targets and other international legal obligations relating to climate change. What's more, Deputy Speaker, these amendments would also prohibit the approval of any action that would emit 100,000 tonnes of CO2 or more. This is important because we are running out of time to address the climate crisis and we need urgent action to turn things around. My amendments also introduce new offences relating to undertaking unapproved actions that will have a significant impact on emissions and includes consequential amendments to the EPBC Act necessary for the implementation of the climate trigger and my amendments to the EPA bill. Now, Speaker, it's obvious to anyone who's paid even the slightest attention that our environment laws should aim to protect our precious natural world from climate change, because it is clearly one of the most significant threats. Australians know this, the Department knows this, and the Prime Minister certainly knows this. This begs the question, why are we still waiting for a climate trigger? Why have we had to sit through review after review, committee report after committee report, endless briefings from experts all telling us the same thing? What it comes down to is the inaction and inertia of successive governments on both sides of politics, who buried their heads in the sand and kicked the can down the road at every opportunity. Deputy Speaker, when this government was elected promising to end the climate wars by taking credible action on climate change, many were heartened. Some hope was kindled that it might be this government who finally recognised that climate change simply must be included when making decisions about matters of national environmental significance. But instead, when it comes to including it in their reforms, they've ducked, diverted and delayed, and they've treated the Parliament and the community as mugs in the process, telling us not to worry because this whole climate change thing has been solved by the safeguards mechanism and there's no need to think about it anymore. But, Deputy Speaker, people in my community and across the country are worried, and rightly so. Since 2005, excluding the dodgy inclusion of land use changes, Australia has only reduced our actual emissions by about 1.5%. And we've seen recent reports that even on the government's own numbers, we're currently in danger of falling short of our 2030 target. However, now is not the time to abandon our ambition and our targets, as some in this place would suggest, instead to redouble our efforts. And so, to close, I'll again quote the Prime Minister from his speech 20 years ago, quote, "It's time to act, it's time for procrastination to end," end of quote. So I urge the government and all members to do so now and to support these amendments. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.